Hello and welcome. I'm Susan K. Cook, your host for today, and I am interviewing a fantastically amazing woman by the name of Heather Reiss-James. Hello, Heather. How are you?
I'm good, Susan. What an intro. Thank you very much. I'm very, very well and very pleased to be interviewed by you.
Well, I'm very pleased to be interviewing you, Heather. Heather, tell us more about yourself. We're really, really interested to know where you're from and what it is that you do that is so fascinating.
Where am I from and what do I do? Well, I think it was a Syrian Stargate portal that I came through in this lifetime. Oh, but if you mean humanly, I was born in the South Island of New Zealand, a little place called Mosgiel at the foothills of Dunedin, very Scottish sounding town. And grew up there, pretty average dysfunctional childhood as most of us had. And my journey, I guess it began this time when I was born. Okay. So many different and varied adventures as a child. I was pretty much a loner, very much alone. I did play with the other kids, but I had my own imaginary friend and whom I came to know to be my higher self later on when I grew up. But I also had some scary experiences as a kid. And some of these experiences that were scary, interdimensional experiences is what's helped shape me whom I am today. And as I grew up, I started to shut down my giftings. I had an inbuilt bullshit detector. People would say one thing to me or to others, but be thinking another. And I saw that constantly, and I used to get very confused, and it was not a good thing as a kid to be able to always see and know that stuff. So I think I shut it down. Then in my late 20s, I came back from Australia very unwell. I'd been living in Australia. My mother's Australian, and that land is very close to my heart. I came back pretty unwell with an immune deficiency disease that the doctors knew nothing about, didn't know what to do or how to help me. So I started healing, and then I opened up again. I opened up to energy. I opened up to my true journey, my true self, and I started to discover who I really was. And that's when the magic started flowing again. All sorts of things started coming into my life. A lot of deep meditation, a lot of being a hermit, and a lot of self-exploration. But from there, I started discovering the interdimensional, the spiritual world, the metaphysical world yet again. And that was extremely exciting. And I managed to heal myself through many years of self-healing. I managed to heal myself from what could have riddled me for most of my life. And from there into relationships, and then another relationship, self-discovery, then restlessness, always very restless, always very rebellious in many ways. And that was that rebelliousness, I think, that helped me to break through into different areas of self-discovery. Became part of, I guess, the light worker community, trying to find out what was and what wasn't, listens to different channel communications along the way, attended the occasional thing, but was never a book person, never really followed any one particular group because it didn't feel right to be following anything. I had to do my own self-discovery and due diligence. And because of the experiences I'd had as a child with some of the entities that had interfered with me, I became very, very cautious. My bullshit detector alert was always very high when it came to channeled information, when it came to people, teachings and different things like that. So a lot didn't resonate. Some did, but a lot didn't. And then I met my lovely wife, Louise. Lo and behold, I met Louise, and it didn't take me long to realise that we had some deep, long, connected, beautiful, off-planetary and probably on-planetary history together. There was a remembrance there, deep, deep, deep. I kept thinking there's something about this woman that I know her energy really well. So we played as humans, and then I said, would you like some energy healing? Because I became a reconnection level 3 practitioner. So I did some work with her. she started to levitate off the table within about 15 minutes, which wasn't in any of my manuals. So I decided this might not be a good idea to continue in case she flew out the window and the powers that be decided to commit me or commit her or commit us both. So I stopped, and from there she went away and had a wee bit of a rest, and she came back and she had become fully activated within her channeling gifts during that healing process. So us meeting each other was always meant to be, and I believe now even more than ever the combination, the connection of us is what's taking us forward and why we're actually speaking to you today, Susan.
Yes, absolutely. And what I'm thrilled about is that she didn't float away when she levitated, because I think it's important that she's part of your life.
Absolutely.
So you are a very powerful energy healer. Tell us a little bit about your clients and the process that you use for your healing.
Okay, well, in 2010, the Palladian Council came via Louise and connected with us. And a mentor from the Palladian Council that we come to know as Platorans connected with us and said, we have some energy modality, a healing that we would love to bring to humanity via you, and we are tapping people on the shoulder, and we'd like to know if you'd bring it through. Yes, of course, absolutely, bring it on. And so we started to work with this healing modality, which really involves working with the energy body of a human and also activating their grid lines. And so it was quite different from anything I'd seen before. And the only thing I'd ever done prior was the reconnection, but I knew there was something more for me. I always had known there was something more that I could step into. And so here we were. So Louise and I worked with this. We workshopped this with another couple from overseas who was staying with us in our house in Wellington at the time. And we started working with this energy and with Platorans. And it was just amazing. The only thing was that nobody told us to say with grace and ease. And so it was like running a psycho house for about a month. Everybody's stuff started coming up. All their baggage and shit started coming up, and it was a crazy place. And so we started to realize that we needed to say with grace and ease, because I got Lou to bring through Adamus at the time, as we knew him as. And I said, what the hell's going on? We feel like we're all going nuts. This is happening, that's happening. We're barely keeping it together here, yet this healing is amazing. And Adamus merely said, well, did you think that maybe you could have asked with grace and ease? And I went, is that an option? And he just laughed his head off. So from now on, we do with grace and ease. So we started working with the DNA of people, with their energy bodies, under the guidance of our wonderful Palladian mentor. And of course, the Palladians helped seed our DNA, humans' DNA, many, many hundreds of thousands of years ago, when we got to a point on our spiritual evolutionary path. We were a little bit stuck. Gaia said, hey, who wants to help out this wonderful original humans? And many different other planets and beings put up their hands. And the Palladians were a big part of that. They were the first ones, I believe, a big part of it. So it fits in very well with humans, as long as humans have got permission. And as long as humans remember that in actual fact, we are the healers of ourselves. We ourselves are the healers. Nobody can fix or heal us, but we can stand alongside with our intent each other in promoting that healing activation. It's been incredibly powerful. We do trainings. We've got one coming up here in New Zealand very soon. We teach people how to work with this modality, and I feel very privileged and blessed that it has come through us as well, so that we can assist people. So yeah, that's a little snapshot.
So that's wonderful. It's wonderful to know that people can actually go to you and discover about Palladians and these other outside entities that have actually come to you through your meeting and conjoining with Lou. Can you explain more about a Palladian and where the Palladian is from?
Right. Well, we've all heard of the Seven Sisters. So in my awareness, the Palladians come from a group of stars called the Seven Sisters. Now, this is documented throughout history by many of our Indigenous people, okay? The Australian Aboriginal First People, of course, are very familiar with the stories of the Seven Sisters and have their own mythology or stories around that and their own experiences. So this is the Pleiadians we're talking about. They're a very compassionate people. They are a humanoid race. They are very blended with the masculine and feminine energy, though there is a slight difference. Sometimes you'll notice that one may be a little more feminine, so we call them a she. One may be a little more masculine, so we will refer to him as a him, as we do with Platorans, has more of a masculine bent, but they are very androgynous. I had some work done on my leg at a lucid, what we would call, we have lucid dreams. This was more than a lucid dream. This was an experience at another dimension when I was resting one night. I had some damage to my right leg, which I broke when I was 16. That's another story. I nearly decided to exit the planet then because it became a fatty embolism in my lung and I nearly died, but I decided to stay. So here I am, had a few issues with that leg over the time, and I was calling on the energy of healing, and I had two amazing Pleiadian energies come to me to assist me, and they looked nothing like anything you see on the internet, I can tell you. They had dark hair, and it wasn't hair as we know it. It was more like a skin covering that blended in, and it was very black, and it blended into their scalp and came down a little way. They had amazing blue eyes with darker eyelashes, I guess, and they had these blue, beautiful blue sort of skin-tight outfits on with little emblems on each side, and they were skin-tight, and they were very androgynous, but I felt a slightly male leaning, and very wise, very community connected. And there was 2 or 3 of them there that had come and with permission and were very gentle and did some healing on my leg, which certainly has improved greatly since that day, quite a few years ago now, probably about 2013, 2012, I believe. So I see the Pleiadians as a wonderful, empathic, healing, wise group of beings. But we also need to remember that, like any groups, humans, and otherwise, there are often the renegade groups or the groups that have rebelled and have sometimes been manipulators in the process of humanity or other planets. These are not the Pleiadians we deal with or we connect with.
That's absolutely intriguing, and I could actually listen to you for hours about that. Picking up on what you said earlier, you talk about your second birth. Are you starseed? Did you, and if so, can you explain that to your audience, the people who are listening to us now? Because people often don't understand when somebody who is awakened like you are about a second understanding or a second rebirth of themselves, where they start to understand themselves.
Look, that's a great question. Do you want to give me a definition and your understanding of what a starseed is? Because there's multiple of them floating around.
Basically, what I understand is a starseed is actually a person who is a part of the outer limit of universal life, who has actually come to Earth and actually recreated a half-breed of human. That is what I understand as starseed.
Well, in that case, yes, I am a starseed, like many of us are. Thank you, Susan. I see a lot of definitions out there, and I think we get a bit caught up in it. But that was good. I enjoyed that. Yes, that helps clarity for myself. Absolutely. And of course, that also involves speaking at a singular level in some ways, because this is a multi-dimensional experience that we're having right now. What we're having now is a multi-dimensional experience. And my group of groups and onwards it goes, are listening and connecting with this experience in many different timelines right now. So it's very hard to define things and narrow it down for the human mind. And sometimes I've definitely failed in the area of trying to make it simple or speak to the audience. So what I'd like to say is that there is so much happening on this planet at the moment. There is so much becoming exposed, and that's one of the things I do, is I'm an exposer of that which is manipulative. There is so much of that happening right now. But what is also happening is people are coming into the understanding of their galactic human self, their original Earth human self, their star seed self, all these different terminologies that are floating around. And it is a very personal thing for each person to discover. And meditation and self-discovery, due diligence is so important at this time. But yes, there are many people starting to realize about their hybrid nature, starting to realize that they have a bit of Pleiadian, they have a bit of Arcturian, they have a bit of Zeta, reptilian, who knows? I mean, let's take away the right or wrong. There is so much coming forward and being revealed, and it's extremely exciting and extremely daunting at times, which is why Louise and I are here too, so that we can talk with people about these things. And recently, of course, Louise's book, The Lyran Disclosure, we've been connecting with the Lyrans for well over a year now and sussing them out, and we've had a lot of self-discovery around that and are discovering our Lyran bloodline, our connection, very strongly. And that seems to be like the foothold of all the different DNA bloodlines coming through, right down to humanity. So that's another story.
That's a very exciting story. And there's something I would love to hear you, I would love to hear you describe yourself in 3 to 5 words to the audience, so they can connect with you as you see yourself.
Okay. Crazy.
Oh, that's cool. I like crazy.
Intense. Cutting edge. Creative. And fun. I like to have fun.
And fun is exactly what we're all about as well, because I believe in fun and happiness and lots of love, because that is how we can all connect. And that is obviously what you and Lou are teaching out there. And I love you for that. I think it's wonderful. Tell me a little bit about your public speaking.
Right, okay. Well, as a student at school, I was part of the debating team. You know, my father was a great orator, a debater. He was well known in business circles, and, you know, and I guess there was an expectation, as being the eldest son he never had, that I was to follow to a certain degree, but it was my choice still. And I was still a very, very shy child. As a child, I was extremely shy, believe it or not. I used to hide away and have all sorts of weird experiences on my own. But thrown into an arena as a student at high school, of course, one has to survive. And so my humour was my survival package. That was how I survived, my sense of humour. It hid a lot of my insecurities, and maybe still does today to a lesser degree. I became a debater, member of the debating team. I don't think I was a great debater because it was too structured for me in a lot of ways. I became the first president, female president of our student council in the history of our high school, our college down at Tyree College, or Tyree High as we knew it back then. So that was a big deal. It was a school that was run by men. And, you know, this is back in the 70s. It was a very misogynist type patriarchal farming community. It really was. So that was a bit of a big deal. And so I took from that, from strength to strength, and ran away to Australia for about 10 years. And I played in the hospitality industry, and sometimes I played a wee bit too hard, but I always had a lot of fun. And it was always that fun edge there. I didn't do anything major with my life, with corporate or anything like that. But when I came back and I got well, I started to heal myself. I started to stand up and join a theatre group. I joined some fringe theatre. And then I went to a stand-up comedy class with a friend of mine now, who's become a friend of mine now, did her workshop, and that was it. I had to do stand-up comedy. So I started doing stand-up comedy theatre and also running my own stand-up comedy club back in Wellington in the late 90s, and I had a ball. I had an absolute great time, but it's a roller coaster ride, Susan, because if you get people laughing, you're on that high, you know, and they say that stand-up comedy is the hardest thing to do. I think it is. I think it is. Personally, it really is a challenging field, but I had a great time, enjoyed it, and decided that I wasn't going to keep pursuing it in a professional era, which is interesting because some of the people I actually were on stage with at the same time, shared sets with, are now famous, well-known comedians here in New Zealand.
Well, that's fantastic. Do you believe that having that fun and the humor helped heal you? Do you believe laughter heals?
Oh my God, yes. I come from a crazy family. My mother and father both got very, I think, slightly warped senses of humour. My mother is extremely warped senses of humour. She can be completely deadpan face and say something, and just hilarious. So yes, of course, it was, no matter what happened in our family, the love and the humour is what brought us back to balance. The humour has been an amazing and major part of my healing, and it still is today. Lou and I have these funny little things that we do with each other when we're getting way too serious and off on a tangent of drama to bring us back.
It's a wonderful thing to know that you have these wonderful tools in a toolbox, and you can do this, and you can teach this to other people too. I love it. Something else I'd like to know about, and I know the audience will really appreciate this. How did you decide to start creating your amazing tours? And if you'll let me know, and the audience know more about your next tour that you've got packaged away, ready to go.
Right, thank you, Susan. I worked for an American company for 4.5 years, taking Americans around Australia, New Zealand, Fiji Islands. I was their tour director, their trip leader, their you name it, their counsellor, their entertainer, their educator, everything. It was a very intense job, and I loved it for the most part. But then when I'd learnt everything I needed to learn, I packaged that inside of me, skill listed it, integrated, and it was always there at the back of my mind. Lou and I had always had this at the back of my mind. I want to run my own tours. We want to run our own tours. We'd already been doing it prior to this big job with sacred site tours around New Zealand and small retreats and things like that, and we wanted to do it bigger and better. So Tour Gaia was birthed, and only just recently birthed in its initial form, and we're very, very, very excited. Small group tours, sacred sites, bringing on board the channeled galactic transmissions and communications, the meditation, the connection to the land, and the uncovering of the truth in different parts of the world. So first up, we have the birthplace of humanity. Very, very exciting to be launching Africa Sacred Sites 2019 September. And if you go to tourgaia.com, Gaia is Gaia, you will see it. And I believe that this was birthed with the help of Gaia, with the help of the energies, because our planet is really wanting more and more people to connect to the truth of who she is, her sentientness, and what really has been happening on this planet, and how we can come back to our empowered state of being. Okay, so there's a lot in there, and you know, Lou and I are really modern day shamans, and as modern day shamans we have the ability to tap into the energy at much deeper levels than your average travel company is going to. So with all that experience and the different colour and texture and fun and flavour we bring to a tour, we're very excited, and we're only going to take a small group, and we have some single supplement places and some shared supplement places left. But get in now, we've got an early bird running.
I think that's wonderful. And one of the things that I'm really thrilled about is it's from my land, Zimbabwe, and you'll be going to the Zimbabwe ruins, which I grew up with as a girl, and they are fascinating. They're totally amazing.
You're so right, Susan. You've got Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe ruins, of which I've been to Africa twice, to Victoria Falls. I haven't myself been to Zimbabwe ruins, but when I'm quiet and I tap into the energy, oh my goodness, what the heck is that all about? And I can't wait to, uncover the truths there with our group and Louise when we get there in September. So Zimbabwe ruins. We've also got Michael Tellinger at the Johannesburg end of things. Michael Tellinger is a cutting-edge researcher and scientist, and he has brought a lot of information forward about the Anunnaki people who made their initial footprint in Africa, in the southern African area. So I'm really excited to be listening to him speak. He's going to be presenting with us for 3 days. How cool is that? I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Can you fill in everyone who's listening to you personally, you, Heather, how you felt as a child when people didn't believe you when you were seeing somebody else who was actually there?
I felt confused, conflicted, disempowered at times. I started not to believe me, my knowing. So I started to shut down my knowing. It was very, very uncomfortable time, and it continued until I woke up again, re-woke myself up with the illness, by the way, which was all supposed to be. And then I started coming back into my strength, but it still took me a number of years before I was able to actually speak my truth. And to be perfectly honest, Susan, it's only over the last couple of years that I've been able to be more direct, if not verbally, but energetically, with people who I know have an agenda and who are hiding the truth or manipulating the truth. And sometimes those people may appear human, but they're not. They've got another thing riding them. And so being very clear about directing that too is something that I'm not afraid of doing anymore. But as a kid, it was very conflicting and confusing.
The reason I'm asking you this is because I understand that totally. Having been in this sort of field myself, what I would really love to discover more about you is the ability to know when people are bullshitting, because that is a unique thing that a person has. Not everybody has that. And how you deal with that socially, because it can be a tough show.
Look, socially, I can be seen as being cold, aloof, not interested. I'm not a coffee club person. You know, I can't do coffee chat. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally.
And as a result of that, in particular areas of the light worker community, for example, I've been seen as being indifferent. I've actually just been bored. And so it's been challenging for me. I'm getting better at being able to direct conversation in a particular way, or stay for a while and then go, or whatever it is. Also getting better at going, I'm sorry, I'm just going to have to take a bit of space for myself now, I'm going to do something for me, or whatever it is. But also better at going, hey, maybe you would like to look at it if someone's sort of repeating the story, which you get a lot of stories when you have coffee chat, someone's repeating it. And if I have permission at any level, sort of, addressing the situation as well in a compassionate way. I'm better now, Susan. I'm better at doing that now, but it's been a very uncomfortable sort of ride. And I think part of my my rabbit hole down heavy drug taking as in my 20s and partying, etc., was actually a response to some of that. The being conflicted, shutting down, not knowing, well, if I'm not speaking if what I'm saying is not bullshit, then I'm wrong, sort of stuff. So I think part of that was a result of that as well, which I take total responsibility for. Only I can heal myself.
Yeah. I hear you there as well, Heather. Every one of us has a story, and we have to actually develop into who we become and actually who we love, because we've got to love ourselves. And I can see that since your marriage to Lou as well, it's totally grounding for you both, which is wonderful. And I congratulate you, Heather, on being such a wonderful and inspirational woman, and powerful and strong. You're a very strong woman, and I love you for that. I'm going to wind this down now because it's coming to the end of our interview. I really do want the audience to know that they can find you on itiscosmic.com. And if you'll actually share your tour website as well after I've said my goodbye. And I wish you so much happiness and joy and fun. But most of all, I wish you love.
Oh, Susan.
So I'm going to say goodbye, and I'm going to leave Heather to say her farewell. This is Susan K. Cook, and I've been very, very blessed with being able to interview Heather here on this interview.
Thank you, Susan.
Over to you, Heather.
The blessing is both ways. I feel very honoured to have been able to be interviewed with you. Okay, folks, that's it from me, and I could do the 2 Ronnies, but I won't.
You can if you want.
That's it from Susan, and that's it from me. We will see you soon.
And I say goodbye to you, over to you.
And remember, it is cosmic.